All righty. Welcome back, everyone, to another live stream. The uploading progress is going well. I've been doing 5 a day. It'll be usually up on 12 noon, 2 o'clock, 4, 6, and 8. So I'm going by order, chronological order, all of the videos that I was able to download the last time we had a fiasco like this, which turned out okay. I was restored, but not this time. It's gone. It's totally gone. So we are coming back like a, what is that bird? The from the ashes. Yes.
Phoenix.
A phoenix. So anyway, I spoke with Mike Lee last night, and I was gonna say, hey, wouldn't it be cool if you could join us tomorrow as well? And he said, well, that sounds like a good idea. Send me the link. I just got a message from him that he is too sore. What happened? He fell down. He was covering an event and he hurt himself. And I know what that's like because I've done it myself as well. And you know, at our age, we cannot afford to do that. So as I promised everyone, if you are a Precisioncolors user, how long has it been? I don't know, 2 decades. And you're sticking with that brand, and now you're upset because things happen with tariffs or whatever. He was in Canada and shipping mostly to the US. We always discuss, hey, Mike, why don't you set up a business here instead? And then you can just bypass all of that malarkey. Well, no, for years he's been telling me how much he wanted to retire, but he just could not take that big step until recently. So he, unbeknownst to me, I didn't even know this because I knew that he had been speaking with a couple of other individuals, and it did not pan out. He even offered it to me, and I said, no, I don't have time to be doing this. I would love to, but no, I would have to have a team working behind my back, and there's no way that I can handle this. You need someone young with energy to run this business. So he found Matt McNamara. I call him Eminem. So from now on, it'll be Eminem, just like a rapper group. Okay. So he accepted my offer to be here with us today. And so let me bring him in right now. And there he is on the right side. I'm on the left. There's Matt M. Welcome, Matt. And I am going to load that set of questions that I told you I was going to ask you. And I hope you're ready because everyone wants to know certain things. Sure. And I told Mike that, you know, if he wanted to, that I was going to surprise everyone and bring him in during this process, but I don't think he's going to be able to do that. So I'm just going to load this up here. First of all, Matt, welcome. Let everyone know who you are. We're going to start with, like, how did this come about? How did you hook up with Mike out of the blue, some dude up in Toronto, Canada? You're in Chicago, from what I hear.
Yep.
And I have relatives in Rockford, by the way, just north of you. But anyway, how did this come about, and how long have you guys been sneaking around talking about this? Because until just almost the last couple of months when this actually took place, I didn't know anything about it. And
Well,
Mike tells me everything. So,
well, first, thanks for having me. Quick introduction. My name is Matt McNamara. I'm one of the owners of Precisioncolors. There is a silent partner on the side, but I am managing the day-to-day mostly, more or less entirely. We have some help internally. We can talk about that in a little bit, but
I'm going to put you full screen here.
thank you.
Yep.
And until about a year ago, I had a full-time corporate job. My wife and I have a business on the side. We actually own a sock company, men's sock company. And that is relevant because we were actually a customer of Mike's. And so I don't remember if we found Precisioncolors first or one of Jose's videos first, but we were a customer. And when I got laid off a year ago,
Wait. What kind of customer were you? Just like a professional level customer, or just you have a printer and you want to try?
we have two Pro 100s
Okay.
in our office, and in a part of our sock business that kind of blew up early on was we make custom wraps for our socks. So a lot of people will use our socks for gifting purposes. That's kind of our niche. We were originally focused on weddings, and so in my head, I needed something that looked awesome, but wasn't like, it didn't need to stand the test of time because the stock wrap is ripped off and then it's used. And so that's the perfect use case for third-party inks. Of course, you can do photography, printing, etc. But at the end of the day, that's what we needed. And so yeah, we run two Pro 100s regularly, and that's what we're printing on them. And in, I don't know, October of last year, I started working after I'd been let go, I started working at our sock company a bit more, helping out my wife who was running it mostly. And she's like, oh, can you go reorder inks? And so I went to reorder the inks, and funny enough, I never actually finished placing the order. The total order became the whole business, but I messaged Mike on the side, and I didn't really know Mike at the time. I'd seen him on the live stream or on videos here and there on Jose's channel, but I messaged him, and effectively what I said was, why is the website so hard to shop? My sock business, we run on Shopify. Like, there's good technology to do this stuff these days. And the summation of what he said was, I'm done. He wanted to retire. He wasn't looking for that next phase. In the back of my head, I was like, oh, maybe I could help him transition to that, make, a quick buck to help supplement our income or recently lost income. But ultimately I was like, well, let's have a different conversation. And so Mike entertained that conversation very graciously. He invited me up to their place in Canada, and I went and visited. And then that was, I think, in November of last year. And then we kept things moving a little bit. In January, for personal reasons on Mike's side, things slowed down a bit. And then come March or so, late February, early March, we're like, let's make this happen. And so, I don't know, I think it was like March 14th, March 15th, we in the US bought all the assets of his business. I went up there and helped package them up to move down on some semi trucks and move that down here. So,
but you don't have that printer army he has in his basement still.
No, Mike opted to keep that. Those were not included in the asset agreement.
I don't know what he's going to do with that, because I asked him. I asked him point blank, Mike, when was the last time you printed anything with us? Oh, he said he was very vague. He didn't want to admit that he's been a bad boy and hasn't printed anything. So he's going to have some work. Fortunately, they're mostly EPSONs, and they can take the so-called reviving process pretty well, unlike Canon printers. So I mean, so you basically didn't really know anything, all the technical engineering sides of ink development and that sort of thing. You're just a marketer at that point. That's what you were getting into, to market his products. Did he ask you whether he was going to able to collaborate with you on the side, or?
Yeah, a little bit. So yeah, so my background, my degree's in advertising,
Yeah,
but I am a
you're not
technologist.
a color engineer,
No,
so
very
yeah.
much no. But like I have years of darkroom photography experience
Okay,
starting
that
in high
helps.
school and into college. And
Hmm.
so I know my way around a camera, both analog and digital. And on the digital side, in a weird way, that's what's propelled my career. Being able to like make compelling graphics and stuff. That's a long story for another day, but it really has helped me. And so overall, I mean, that's how, I don't know. I mean, I don't know the technical background. Like I know the basics of how a printer work, but like Mike's knowledge, Mike is an engineer through and through by education and just how
Hmm.
he thinks about the world. And so I don't have that background, but Mike did share the amount of information he dumped on me when I was at his place both times was just an insane amount of knowledge. And some of that's recorded on video so that like I can parse through it when I have questions. But in terms of working with Mike, I have to go to him regularly, at least once a week on average.
I'm glad he's able to take care of any questions you may have.
Yeah, he's been incredibly helpful. So incredibly.
What I was seeing during the progression of the developing of Precisioncolors, because it wasn't known to be called that way back then. He had the funkiest name on eBay. I forget what it was, but that's how I discovered him, because I was going through different ink sets that were being sold out there, and I had no clue that these inks were either made in China or they were made in the US by basically a single laboratory. At that time, it was Image Specialists, and they combined with the other one. And so basically, it's just everything's made here in the US that you guys are selling, and Ink Owl and all the other good companies that sell third-party products. They buy it from the same source, basically.
Yeah.
But Mike, being the micromanager that he was and still is in a way, he wanted to tweak and to improve the so-called off-the-shelf model. And I've said this a million times to the viewers here. And luckily, because of his knowledge, he was able to talk to these lab techs like he was one of them.
Yeah.
And so they immediately took him in under the table, and they did his custom formulations. He would send me a set, and I would load it in some cartridges and test it, send him the results. He would see OEM, he would see third party, but some other person doing it, not him. And so that's how we work throughout the years. And so 6 months, 7, 8, 9 months later, he would arrive at a final decision that, if I try to improve this anymore, it's going to take way too much time, too much effort, diminishing returns, the deal. And so that's how each set became a set, and Precisioncolors Signature Edition. So he put a signature on it. I mean, that gives it a little bit more uplift, So the new printers now, let me not get ahead of myself. Yeah, that's the next subject. Will I be able to continue buying the same formulations for my Precisioncolor supported printers? This is a terrible monitor. I can barely read it. And the ones that he already has, the formulations that he handed to you that you can just order from the lab, those are covered. But you got things like the Pro 200. I know he did a set for the Pro 200. And that's a little bit more difficult to refill because chips cannot be reset. Yeah. And the cartridges are opaque. Canon got wise and decided to stop us, but they didn't really. Pro 300 and the 300S, I believe, or no, 310. 310. That's got the same formulation that the new batch of Pro printers uses, like the 1100, the 2600, 46, and so on. They use that new ink set that the 1100 all of a sudden now came out with. have you any plans? Because some companies are already working on that.
Oh yeah.
And you need to jump in because you need to be able to compete with these companies.
Yeah. So a little bit about kind of where we're at right now. So
Yeah.
backing up a second, we order raw materials, not raw materials for the ink. We get pre-made inks from our suppliers, and then we actually mix them in-house according to Mike's recipe. So we do the mixing all here, and Mike and his wife were doing all the mixing.
Oh, good. Okay.
And so I do have all his formulations. I have no intentions of changing any of that. They're dialed in. The ICC profiles are set. There's no reason for us to change that anytime soon. The only reason I would change it is if one of the inks became unavailable. One of our supplied inks became unavailable. And that I don't foresee that happening with any of the popular products. One of the less popular products, it's pretty old Canon Gray, is now unavailable. We've had 2 orders for it in the last, 6 months. So it's not particularly popular. I'm not too worried about it. Canon still makes the gray, so that's an option. But in terms of new printers moving forward, we absolutely want to expand the line. And the 310 and the 1100 are probably the first 2 printers we'll add support for. We have not dived into the color mixtures at all, the supplies, cartridges, etc. None of that we have really taken a look at. But every time someone submits a ticket to our support system, I tag it with a new product tag and which printer they're asking about. And by far, these 2 printers are the next 2 we'll need to support.
Yeah, I think unfortunately there's really no future for anything from Epson coming out of this moment because they have simply locked it. The laws are different here in the US and I assume also Canada, mostly North America. Don't know about Mexico, but yeah, in Europe, yeah, it's all open. You can actually buy a P900 with the European firmware, and you can use Chinese-made refillable cartridges. The chip works, it resets, and the reason that you know how they locked us, and I don't know whether he has explained that to you or anyone. Maybe you know. See, each chip has a unique code that is read-only. It cannot be written over. So it's a read-only code that identifies that particular actual chip. And it could be yellow, magenta, cyan, gray, whatever. But it has a unique number code. And before, on earlier printers, you reset it or maybe use a auto reset chip. Again, all of those have unique codes as well. And it resets itself to a full level. That's the write portion of the code. So it rewrites itself as full, but the printer sees it as the same original fingerprint. Let's just call it that.
Yeah, that's a good way.
And it says, "Oh, I don't care. Yeah, I know you just reset it, but I don't care." Pro 100. I know you just reset it, but I don't care. Epson printers, they just went hog wild and they just locked us out completely. So it sees the same code and it rejects that you reset it. You may have actually reset it to full level, but it sees that same original address. And so it says, "Sorry, dude, you're trying to cheat me. You got to buy a new chip." And so Canon has begun doing that with they did it with the 200, the 300, and all the iterations after that. The Pro 1000, it was unresettable. And China began to make counterfeit chips that act like genuine ones. I know Mike was selling them.
Yep.
That's what I was using. And so I don't see how this business of third-party inks can continue dealing with Epson unless you're in Europe.
Yeah.
Which has much, liberal laws over there for this type of thing. I mean, they think it's against human nature to force you to use, their products. So we think differently here, I guess. So Epson can get away with doing that, and Canon sort of can, but Canon just left that door open. Well, if you want to reset your chip and you find some way to refill our cartridges, by the way, we made them so that they can be refilled. Go ahead. It's on, you're on your own. If you kill your printer, too bad. They leave it for you to choose, and you can reset that chip, and you're done. Now that cartridge doesn't require a chip at all. What about chipless firmware for EPSONs? They stopped. They couldn't even create one for the P900. What did EPSON do? Where the I'm not going to say the country that hacks printers, but they couldn't figure out a way to do it. They couldn't figure out a way to do a resetter for the Pro 1 whatsoever. Red Setter, the resetters you're selling for the Pro 100, Red Setter, that company couldn't come up. And they tried and they tried and they tried. They couldn't come up with that. So what's the future going to be for? How do you see yourself evolving? Because at some point, I think they're going to lock down everything. And I really feel bad about, I've been promoting this business for, 25 years now.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to be the end. I don't see a really bright future for refillers or people who just want the right to use another brand of gasoline and not just Ford.
Yeah.
Or Chevy.
It's an interesting question. I mean, the first conversation I had with Mike, the first thing he told me was, Matt, this business is it's declining. And so then the next question would be, well, why would I buy it? Right. And so the truth is, generally speaking, the numbers are just attractive enough that it's fine to continue on for some time.
Mm-hmm.
From a technology perspective and being able to continue it, we'll continue to support what we can support for as long as we can support it. But you now have older inks like, what's it called? I forget, one of the EPSON models is no longer available. One of the cartridge models. Now third party is the only option for those. And so there's that segment, which not particularly attractive, but at some point we'll need to expand our offering to other products. We haven't figured out what that looks like yet. Before we can even offer new products like the 310, the 1100, we need to get our new website in order. Adding products to the current website is a process.
It's
changing prices we haven't changed prices on the website because it's too much of a process. And so, we'll have to do that at some point, but, and we can talk about what that looks like, but in general,
printers, I mean, here's what happened back in the day. So if they had the R300 or 280, 300, 320, 340, 360, 380. I had some of those, and they use the same cartridge type. But EPSON created a method of designing their cartridges with multiple internal passages.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if you've ever dissected one of these. It's crazy. And so you have to use this type of cartridge, refillable. But they allowed you, and the chips were resettable or they were auto reset. Some of them use different methods of auto resetting, but still they allow you to refill. So all of those early versions of 6 cartridge printers from EPSON, the reason people threw them away because they would clog on them and they would just give up, or the internal wasting pads would go full after cleaning cycle after cleaning cycle, of course. So by we I mean me and the other crazy people in this refilling world, we came up with ways to bypass the collection of waste ink to an outside bottle. And that way my internal pad never really got saturated, but I also had a way to reset that counter back to 0. So it would be like resetting your gas gauge back to full without buying gas, and you just have a tank in your backyard and you load it with free ink, free gas. So that's what we were doing. So we were able to extend the lifespan of these printers 10 times. And so you didn't really, the printer produced beautiful prints even back then if you knew what you were doing. And so there was really no need to continually upgrade to the next model. And that's what they wanted you to do.
Of course.
We're not going to show you how to reset the pads. So once they go dead, it says some parts of your printer have reached the end of their life. Oh my God, get the burial going, because we got to get rid of this printer, buy a new one. And that's what they will tell you. And it is such a messy process that these local repair shops don't want to do it. It's a pain in the butt,
yeah,
to do that process. And they made it so that you're required to log on to a server, a Canon server, as a technician with a logon code to be able to run the resetting software. Well, then they had hacks that you could download from underground sources, but now they have the chipless firmware. You just install that firmware and you're done. Your cartridges read full constantly. You just got to make sure that you refill these, regularly. Don't wait until it's empty, otherwise you're in trouble. So, yeah, there was really, then they came up with the 1900, which was an 8 cartridge printer. Wow, what a upgrade! And then the 2000 came out, which I just sold mine to a friend here locally, still working perfectly. Why? Because I collect my ink externally. I know how to make that printer last forever, pretty much. Epson printheads don't wear out like Canon printheads do. So as long as you take care of it, don't let them clog, they will last unless something mechanically breaks down. But you see, and now then after the R2000, the R400 came out, and I don't know what the upgrade they did on it, but it was basically the same printer. Those printers you still covered. You're still promoting those printers. You're still not promoting, but providing.
Yeah, we still have it.
Yeah. So that's really it. And up to like the latest one, P800, sort of. Yeah, we got a firmware you can install for it, and I that's what I'm doing.
Yeah,
I'm using refillable cartridges. I just check every once in a while. I can see the levels because they're transparent, and just top it off. It's reading that is full constantly. Just don't change, don't update the firmware. You'll have to do it over again.
Yeah.
So yeah, unless it's Canon, I just don't see.
It's a cat and mouse game with all of them, and we'll continue to play the game for a while. We'll figure out what's next and kind of adjust if and when we can. In a pie in the sky world, I mean, it's hard to even conceive. But what I did for the last 15 years was hardware, like IoT hardware. So I love hardware. The idea of creating a printer, while ridiculous, is a fun idea to me. We don't have any plans to do that. I don't see how and when we would accomplish that. It's decades of history that the Canon and Epson have done, but it's a fun idea, thought process. So
hey, wait a minute. Jerry says Matt should turn off his phone. My phone was on. I just logged off.
It might have been. I moved mine off the desk and into my bag, so it might have been vibrating. I don't know what Jerry was hearing, but I moved.
No, I since I started doing this on a different channel, I need to ensure that it's actually something that people can view, and I'm not just talking up and to nowhere. But anyway, yeah. So I felt bad about Mike having to deal with this decline on support. Like, we're here to support every printer that is made, and we unfortunately live in the United States, and we are locked. So how can we continue?
There's an interesting right to repair movement happening here, and this falls loosely under that. And I'm not particularly optimistic at the moment, but that's an interesting thing. I'm curious how that plays out in the long run. Mm-hmm. I'm not an expert in the general idea. I just follow it loosely because it's a topic that is interesting to me as someone who has always tinkered myself, built PCs, refilled ink cartridges, etc., stuff like that. I'm a big fan of right to repair. Now that I own a company that's tangentially related, I'm a big fan of it even more. But we'll see where that goes over the years. there's been small wins here and there, but we'll see.
All right, let me quickly see what people have posted here. We have a guy in Wales, UK, who comes on at 6:51 my time. That would be 5:51 your time in Chicago. And I always ask them to tell me what printer they own, and so he's got a Pro 300, which he's probably using with OEM inks. I think that's what he told me in the past. But someone was also using a 300 and refilling it. So I know that Mike did a set for the 300. Did he do just a basic 300, right? Yeah, just a 300. And was able to disable the chips and just refill the cartridges. Just like these here. You just flip it over and just add ink. And when it weighs a certain weight, which I believe is like 32 grams, you just pop it back in the printer. And, the chips are disabled, so they're going to read as blank. So he's able to continue printing. And he's done it. I tell you, that's what worries me about an opaque cartridge. And there's no other option. You're not going to cut it out and put a little window. There's a bag inside that cartridge. There is no way to see how much ink. So he has figured out apparently a sort of like a schedule that he just does all 10 at one time. And that's it. Nothing bad has happened. And he continues to print with the disabled chips. Ron K, Trenton, New Jersey. He's got an 8550. And that's another thing. Now, Mike was tinkering, and he actually began marketing it, the pigment ink set for the 8550. And that's an option. If you have enough money, you want to buy a couple of 8550s, one with dye, one with pigment. Although apparently the dye inks have a very good longevity testing by who was it that did it? Actually, a very respectable company that does that. And under certain conditions, I think it exceeded 150 years. Like under UV glass, printed on non-OVA type papers, 150 years longevity. Just a normal ink set. And it's cheap enough.
And if anyone has the ET8550 and wants to use dye, we actually do have the formulations. Mike just never got them onto the website. And so when we launch the new website eventually, we'll take care of that. We'll add that in. Okay. But if anyone needs it and wants it, they can reach out to support and we can arrange for it.
Another very popular option for the so-called 8550. Let me grab. For sublimation. So you can set that printer up and the inksets are available. In fact, probably made here locally in the US. So having a 13-inch capacity from the very beginning off the box, you set it up with sublimation inks. And then you take those dye inks and you sell them on eBay to someone. Simple. And so that printer will become a fantastic sublimation printer because Epson already sells dedicated sublimation printers that only have 4 tanks. Okay. And they run at least 1,500 for the small one and like 20-something hundred for the larger capacity one, which I think is like a roll unit, 24-inch unit. But it's a EcoTank style printer made by Epson specifically for that. So having an inkset available for the 8550, I think that will sell like hotcakes because I tell people if I had it in me, $800 to spare, I would buy a new one and set it up exclusively for sublimation. It makes absolute sense. And I still have the one for regular photography. And it takes forever for these tanks to drop. I'm telling you, it's the way to go. And I will piss off some people. I guarantee you, because I have shown people this kind of result And they say, oh, yeah, well, what about the Pro 1000? And I'll go print it on the Pro 1000 and I'll bring both of them out. And unless I mark it, I identify it, which printer did what, it's very difficult to find the difference. There is a difference, but you have to have spectrophotometer eyes, to be able to detect it sometimes. And for the most people, the people that really cannot afford the ridiculous price for, OEM inks for this, the whole set will cost you maybe $105 for the whole set, and it'll last you a whole year. Why not?
Yeah.
So, pigment ink, for those who just want to print on like art type papers that are not glossy, those inks that Mike created, they suffer in gloss differential. Magenta is horrible. Magenta will always be slightly more matte than all the other colors, so you will see differences on your images. Anything that has magenta, like this orange, that was magenta and yellow, will look a little bit flatter, more matte than the rest of the surfaces. The skies will look glossy, and yet anything red flowers, forget it. They look like they were printed with matte ink. And so you have to choose your ink type if you're going to go third party with a specific family of papers. And in those cases, unless you're using a spray afterwards, to just like Chroma Optimizer does, that's what Chroma Optimizer does. It evens out all of the issues that even Canon inks also have.
Yep.
That's why they have Chroma Optimizer. So Epson inks are different. They encapsulate each granule of pigment in a little globule of resin. So it creates a very smooth surface, which does not cause diffusion of the light. And so that's why it looks glossier to us than Canon inks without any kind of Chroma Optimizer. Anyway, all right. So what if I live in Canada, man?
Yeah.
What was the percentage of sales that remained in Canada? Did he ever discuss those numbers with you?
The first number,
the breakdown between U.S. and Canadian orders.
I believe it was less than 20% of orders. It might have been as low as 10% of overall orders.
Yeah.
But it's something, when acquiring the business, my business partner and I took like really to heart in terms of how we're going to handle the Canadian customers, especially the existing Canadian customers. They're part of the business. I mean, it was a Canadian company, so it's something we want to definitely respect. Right now, just to give a current lay of the land, as of the most recent time I've looked, there's no additional tariffs on the ink coming in, except that now there's the standard 5% GST, but none of the incremental on top of that tariffs for the ink going in. Shipping is a little bit more expensive because it's a little further, and the tooling behind the scenes, the software that runs the business, is not particularly flexible or intelligent in terms of what we can do to discount, to adjust, to do better pricing more accurately. And so what we've done is, for a while while we had getting our feet under ourselves, we were paying all of the duties and taxes before shipping. So delivering duty paid. The problem with that is we have to do that with a service that is very slow. And so there was this balance of, well, do we go really slow but pay them or not? After listening to a bunch of customer feedback from the Canadian customers, we opted to the overarching was get me my ink sooner, and I will pay the 5%. Right. The shipping cost will work to optimize. In the future, when we have better tooling, like when we're on Shopify and whatnot, we'll have some more options for how we can offer different pricing for Canada versus US. And we haven't looked at the numbers yet to see what we're going to be able to do, but especially for existing customers that were used to, the business being in Canada, we're going to try and offer some kind of permanent discount to those customers.
Okay, that's good.
again, we don't know the mechanics of
There
this
was
yet.
a few very angry customers when this all came down, and the the panic about tariffs and that sort of thing.
Oh yeah.
Because I remember that Mike, and I don't know how he did it and still make a profit. He had a company that would do a drop ship to across the border to New York from Ontario, right? So
he would deliver it to a facility
across the border,
and they would
like I would get a box, a 2-day USPS box that I know costs like $17 to ship, or for 2-day service. And I'm thinking, how the hell are you doing this? How can you afford that?
Yeah.
Because I would have to tack that cost on to either charge my customers shipping, and I never saw a shipping charge. Well, maybe he was being nice to me. I don't know.
You might have been getting some special treatment there.
Maybe.
Today the customers do pay for shipping.
Okay, good.
And we do.
You have to. That's why I don't sell any of my art because, oh my God, I would have to. I'm going to charge you $10 for that, or $25, and then another $18 to put it in the box so you get it in 2 days. No, that's crazy.
At some point, I would love to roll out get to some threshold, then we offer shipping for free. Again, our tooling doesn't really allow for that really easily right now, but that's the game plan. Longer term, the Canadian customers, we've had a bunch of customers reach out, and I've said, like, if you have questions, I'll quote it for you. I can tell you tell me what you're ordering. I will quote it for you, and you can see exactly what it'll ship, and then you can add 5% onto that for GST. And we've won back some customers who were pleasantly surprised that it wasn't as bad. And the feedback I got was, well, I can go. There is one business in Canada I can purchase from, but I like Mike's inks better.
Right, I know who they are. Yeah,
so that 5% is worth it to them.
Yeah, you're either you have to be a hardcore fan.
Yep.
And I've been using you for X amount of decades, and so I don't want to try something new. I've already created ICC profiles on my own, or I have downloaded Mike's profiles. Did he show you his pile of test prints?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Binders of
and that costs money.
Oh yeah.
That costs paper. He's not getting free papers from companies. So you got to be, if he's going to make, got a new ink set out, it's been approved by me. I tested it. I said, Mike, this is better than, anything you've ever created. Go ahead, go with it. And now he's got to make ICC profiles, which means he has to have over 20, 25 different types of paper available for him to print those charts and all of that. And that's money. People have trouble understanding what went in. I knew because I was in the back, helping him, and I knew how long it took. Even going back as far as the Canon 9000 series, the 9000 and the 9000 Mark II, that was eight cartridges. Before that, it had always been 4 and 6. So this was, something really good. I had green proprietary ink and red proprietary ink. So it came into play to help with certain colors that just combining two colors could not really do it. It couldn't really do the job. Same thing with the Pro-1000. That's why they have blue ink and red ink.
Yep.
By itself, it cannot produce a blue, a true blue, an optical blue, not a cyan blue.
Yeah.
The sky is blue, but no, it's cyan. So, yeah, it took a lot of work, a lot of effort, and a ton of testing.
Yeah.
And if you appreciate that as a customer, you know what went into that? I would, and I was in Canada, and I used to be able to deal directly with you. Now I'm in Canada, and you're here in the U.S. Oh, should I really try the other brand that I know has a company in Canada? I've never used them before. They have a good reputation, blah blah blah. But I don't know, man. I've been using. You see what I mean? That kind of relationship that you build. You can build a relationship like that, and people will not leave you unless you piss them off somehow.
I mean, it's been incredible. I mean, we've owned the business for about 6 months, and the number of emails I've gotten just expressing appreciation for keeping the business going, the kind words they had to say about Mike. Like, this customer base is unique. Like, I own another business. I deal with other customers.
And they're not like that.
Not like this. They're not that appreciative.
Right,
and it's really wild to see how many. I mean, Mike had a personal relationship with lots of them. And if anyone, has sent me and said, hey, pass this along to Mike, appreciation, I've forwarded all those to Mike so that he can read those.
In the days when the Pro 100 inks, before he made the signature edition series, which somehow he got this idea and he said, I'm going to do this. I said, Mike, the inks you have are fine. People know that third party is never going to be as good as OEM. Their ingredients cost a fortune. You're not paying that kind of monies, and otherwise you'll be charging us the same amount. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's not that third party companies cannot produce the inks that OEM companies do. Of course they can, but they would have to charge us even more because they would be doing it at a much smaller volume. So he said, well, let me tell you, the reason I keep going with this ink set, and you told me you had 2 Pro 100s. No. You're nothing. You're a nothing customer. He had a customer that had 100 plus Pro 100s, and they had people their only job was refilling, resetting, reflushing, and refilling.
Yep.
Yeah, and it was really amazing. Then they were printing and selling apparently enough, like reproductions of like patents, like historic patents and blueprints of historic things that became something famous.
Yep.
So that's what they were printing, and they were selling that, and they were using Pro 100s, dozens of them.
We tend to have 2 groups of customers. I mean, probably 3 groups of customers. We have photo labs that are like doing something, whether they're using it for test prints or final prints, not 100% clear to me. Then you have hobbyist photographers who want to print their own prints, want them to look nice for friends and family. And then you have a lot of like what our sock business is. You have a lot of these small businesses who want it to look great, but again, like don't need it to be longevity, like a postcard or packaging or thank you notes in their order, stuff like that. They want it to look awesome, but don't want to spend an arm and a leg to deliver that. And they're not doing quantities to order in bulk. So like Etsy shops or other, Shopify stores, whatnot. Those are kind of the 3 groups. And there's some that do a surprising amount of business. I mean, based on what they're ordering from us, they are hauling through ink. So it's really fascinating to see just who's there. There's names I already recognize that come through on the orders or come through in the support and whatnot. So, and again, I've only been doing this 6 months. So Mike was able to reference customers that were going back years, 10 decades. So, it's interesting to see how that fluctuates.
So what do you think the breakdown is in just hobbyists? Somebody who, has a printer that is refillable and shoots photographs and just nice, wants to create prints because that's such a difference between just viewing it on a phone nowadays. This was supposed to kill paper prints. And I think there's been a huge comeback for that, because I keep seeing, although my viewership is like from 70 and above, 65 and above, I have noticed that a lot of younger people, and I see other videos online that it's a young guy doing it. And so I wonder from what your records are at this point. Can you tell? It probably, maybe by the type of order that they place, can you tell the difference, or volume that they buy?
So you can make assumptions, right? So if I look at quantity, so So this is actually an interesting topic I can talk about for a few minutes. Like the underlying data for the business is lacking, right? Mike and his wife just treated this as a husband-wife owned company, and they didn't really care for it to be anything more formal. Where we are approaching it a little bit more, formally. This summer, we had an intern who was instrumental in helping us like build the data structure for the business.
Good.
There are no SKUs for anything. I mean, there weren't. Now there are, and so there's tons of combinations. There's no inventory management system. There's none of that you would consider formal with a data layer. So similarly, Jose, to your question, there's also very little customer data. We can go look at how many orders a given customer has placed. We can look at our seasonality over time. We can look at volume. But even getting to printer type in data is actually really, really hard because of how that data comes into us. It's not streamlined. It's not consistent. It's not the same format. So that's why we had an intern helping us all summer get this in place. And so when we launch with the new website, that structure will be in there and we'll start to do that. The other thing
now that you mentioned SKU, Mike was not doing any of this. So
none of that.
Let's just pick 4-ounce magenta pigment ink for blah, 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 blah. I would have to go back through every single order and say, okay, this guy ordered 1, this guy ordered 3. Correct. Okay, that's 4. Okay. Whoa. Okay. Now
we're not going to go backwards. It's not worth the work. Maybe AI these days could help us. We could dump in the file and say, map this to that, but we're not going to spend the time doing that. It'll be mostly moving forward. But it's crazy. So a 2-ounce needs, right? So 2 ounces needs a SKU, 4 ounces needs a SKU, 8 ounces needs a SKU, and 16 needs a SKU. Well, you also need a SKU for the material and then the bottled product, because it's technically a manufacturing process. You're converting it from raw goods to finished goods. And then if it goes in a kit, then that's other SKUs and all the accessories are in the SKU. So literally, I mean, like I can't describe how valuable our intern was this year. What she was able to do, getting up to speed with the business and just learning all this so that she could help knock this stuff out was incredible.
Yeah, I always argue with him in a way about, promoting mostly a full kit. Say I get this printer and I want to, okay, God, OEM is going to put me in the poorhouse. I need to find another option. Oh, gee, here we go. Oh, wow, a complete kit, all 8 bottles, 8 cartridges, whatever, and a resetter. That's excellent. What else do I need? That's it. Boom, I order the kit. I don't have to piecemeal it.
Yeah.
1 bottle of this, 1 bottle of that, 1 bottle. And then I paid 1.5 times the amount, So kit. And then if I need extra gray ink, you give me the option to go to the bulk ink section. I don't know how you're going to redo this, but that's the way it is now. Yeah. Bulk ink, and then you buy a larger bottle of the ink that gets used the quickest. Or, 3 times more often than.
We'll approach this probably a bit more standard, right? Like how most businesses do, where it's like if you buy in bulk, you'll save. If you're buying individually, you won't. Right. Or I mean, relative to OEM, you'll still save, but relative to a kit, you won't save as much maybe. We're actually going to dig into the numbers. My partner on this is much more of a numbers guy than I am. I'm more operations, tinkering, engineering mind than a numbers guy. So my partner will.
So all of the stuff that people don't think about, the bottling, because you buy your ink in bulk, it comes in.
Yep.
You bottle it, you label it, you seal it. Right. You got all that stuff from Mike, or the sealing machine and all of that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And so are you attempting to keep a certain stock level of everything? Okay. So you don't have to, honey, you got to waddle up. No. Right. Like, I know that's what may have been going on at some point.
Well, Mike and Ling would make in batches as well. But when you run out, like I have a whiteboard where when we run out, we write what needs to be made, or when we're running low, we write what needs to be made. And eventually I want that to be an inventory management system, but
Right.
in due time. The rub is it's a consumable product, or it has a shelf life technically, right? The shelf life is years, but if and customers may have noticed this already, I stopped putting the date on the bottles, right? I have 1 year from purchase date on the bottles right now. Transparently, that the ink will last longer than a year if stored properly. I'm not trying to hide anything. I'm not trying to do anything. It's just a
I think
conservative
that's
metric right now.
used before, certain like food.
Exactly.
That can is still good. Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's fine. You can eat it a week afterwards and it'll be fine.
Yeah. And so we will eventually, like I do want to, Mike's equipment for filling and bottling and everything, it was disparate machines. Eventually I want to figure out if we can get to a point where it's more of a true production line, even if a mini desktop one, like that's what I want to get to. The problem is just the sheer number of inks that we have to support. If you think of it like a pop machine, right? You've got all the bags in the back of the restaurant coming out to the 8 fountain heads. Well, we have hundreds, so the space to do that is it consumes a lot of space. But
I remember one incident that took place years ago when, again, with the Canon 9000. So I don't know. I think the inks were coming from Image Specialists at the time. There was a batch of magenta ink that was put out where they had only added, I think it was only half the level of biocide. So dye inks, some of them were using organic inks instead of synthetic, organic dyes rather than synthetic dyes. And so, because most people don't have a very clean, lab clean refilling process, and I'm the guy that had to go through this, I must have contaminated my bottle with some fungal spores. And so it was growing what they call hyphae, the little filaments, and that got into my print head. And of course, it's a thermal print head. It was cooking those little microscopic hairs that fungi produce when they are, growing. I went through, Mike bought me 4 print heads before he realized it was a magenta ink. So all of it had to be tossed out, and the lab was notified. And apparently the biocide has a half-life, and it went bad. In other words, under normal refilling techniques, which I thought, working in a biological lab for 27 years, I thought I was good at. No, I was not good enough, because that was not being taken care of by the biocide. And so, yeah, and that was the company threw out, barrels of magenta ink. That was bad. And so,
yeah, it's something we pay a lot of attention to on our end, cleaning between.
It takes a user to be able to discover an issue to then report it, just like the yellow gelling on Pro-1000.
Yep.
That was something I found out just before a trip. I was making some prints for my mom, and my printer started producing magenta and cyan prints. Where's the yellow? Yeah. I ran an nozzle check. No yellow. What the hell? And I told him, and it was that there was a reaction somehow, and he had to reach just the perfect conditions. I had refilled that cartridge 3 times already with no issues. The 4th time, I got that gelling. So we started doing Petri dish, trying to combine OEM yellow and the third-party yellow, and then let the little bubble come down and touch each other and see if there was any kind of a little wall of gel being produced. Nah, nothing we did could reproduce that gelling. But that's today with your formulation, signature edition, that's no longer an issue.
Yeah.
No one has ever reported any kind of issues at all at this point. So it used to be where we had to absolutely take this and flush the hell out of it.
When I started, I was in the original era of flushing the cartridges. I have my yellow OEM cartridge that I flush. So
right.
Yep.
And I have my friend Rick, who does this for a living now. He buys empties and he gets them all modified and sells them for probably just a little bit more than the other high. Yeah. No, I trust Rick a lot more than I trust the other people. That's why I promote him as much as I can. And people buy his sets, and they are pristine. You fill them up. The other guy that makes, keep forgetting his name, in LA, he makes 3D printed holders. You just line them all up, because I've had people make a mistake with putting magenta in the light magenta and vice versa, So if you have something in order and you have staring at you magenta,
Yep.
you're going to grab the magenta bottle, put the other ones out of the way. Don't have them all in front of you. I should hold a class on how to refill without mistakes. But yeah, I've done it.
Yeah.
And then, oh God, I realized what I did. Is got to flush it. You got to flush it.
Every time I get a support ticket on why does this look wrong, it's 9 out of 10 times it's they switch the refilling.
You don't realize it.
But I have a panic attack that I hooked up the wrong ink to the filling machine, and
right, of course.
That we made the mistake, and now there's a batch out there that's contaminated.
And even that is possible. I mean, even a factory can make a mistake like that.
Oh yeah.
But what I tell them is just run a nozzle check and then compare the two magentas.
Yep. And
see if the one that's supposed to be slightly lighter looks,
Yeah.
Yeah. If they look the same, you got the same ink in both cartridges. That's why you're having issues. And luckily, it's not a death.
Right.
You just replace the cartridge. If you don't have another one, just buy a new one.
Yep.
Go to Best Buy and buy a new one and put it in. And next time, don't make that mistake. But there's not really need to panic. All right, so let me see. We stopped off here with Ron K. Let's do Nick MPM Photo. Nick Marmolejo, hello. By the way, guys, ask questions now. We can stop our conversation if you have a question that applies to something that you are interested in and aimed at Matt. Okay, you're here for that. I made everybody come in. I was begging people to come in today. And again, after this is over, you're not going to be able to interact. Okay, so make sure that you ask any questions you have now. So Nick lives in Deer Valley, Arizona. You can read what he has, 3800 Pisography inks. Those are the old black inks, by the way. Matte Pisography is a whole black and white printing ink set. Epson 15000 is chipless, just like mine. QMH Ultimate Lifetime on one Pro Raw Max. Richard Bender, neighbor of mine here, about 45 minutes from me. Hagerstown, Maryland. EcoTank 8550, Nikon D300 DJI. He's a drone flyer like I do, and Epson 4180 scanner, and uses Red River papers. Matt, have you continued your relationship with Drew Hendricks, the president of Red River?
Not yet. It's on my near future.
We started doing because, of course, paper manufacturers never recommend third-party products.
Right.
But apparently Mike had a very good relationship with him.
He did.
Because we were getting absolutely results with Red River paper and Precision inks. So Fred Elias, sunny and cool Warren, Michigan. He's got an 8450. You see what I mean? They're all over the place. QMH, Nikon D300, home and hobby. That's what he does. Usually very welcome at events. So, in fact, Richard just did the county fair. That's just north of us. And he got like top prices for his photography done with the 8550. No one knows that it was a dye ink printer.
It's one of our more popular printers that we offer for.
Epson really, I don't know whether Epson really made a mistake here or not, because I don't want to buy a P900. I don't need it. I don't want to buy a P700. I have an 8550, and I can match. I bet you I can match anything you produce with it with your 700. Okay. Harold Goldberg is in Virginia. Richmond. It's raining. Yeah, it was bad here too earlier. Pro 100, all the trimmings. So again, he is a buyer of PC. I know. Photo Nikon 780, Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. There you go. That's going to be one of your new customers, Canon Pro 1000. So there you go. 8550 and XP. This is a 15,000 in QImage Ultimate. So we have QImage is what I use to print with. I've been using it for, gosh, over 20 years. And I don't use anything else. I edit elsewhere, but I always print with QImage. Paul Mashak, not so toasty, Tempe, Arizona, QImage 1 Ultimate, 8550, again, broken record. Pro 100, still happy with kicking with OEM inks. Pricier, but heck, don't break it if it ain't broken. Okay, I can accept that. Harold Davies, he is in Wisconsin, and he has a Pro 1100, 2100 also. I think he was a Pro 1000 user before he upgraded to the 1100. And he's my buddy. We call each other brother. Henry Stoffel. Hi, everyone from Medford, Massachusetts. Epson P800. So that he's using OEM inks, of course, and the latest QImage Ultimate. Kevin Berniarski, another Wisconsinite. Farrell's late babysitting. Oh, he was babysitting in Ellsworth. My wife is from Milwaukee, by the way, Matt. So Kevin says, sorry, I was late babysitting granddaughter. Rick Johnson, this is the guy that does I call it manufacturing of refillable original OEM cartridges. I can see right off the bat that Matt will be a great success in his business. He's almost bald like me and Jose.
I'm pretty bald.
I don't know. I can actually grow some hair. I used to have a ponytail that was like this long. Took it off. Jerry Lonko says, sadly between increased shipping costs and USA, matte inks are unaffordable in Canada and have forced me to use third-party providers' quality results. Yeah, he's the guy that was having...
Later down the chat, Jerry shares the actual shipping cost. Jerry, submit your address and what you're ordering to support at Precision.
Matt will take care of you, man.
.com.
We'll
look at the real cost. So we'll take a look.
And you are reachable, right? I mean, there's a email you can.
Yeah. So support at. So yeah, a little bit behind the scenes. Support at precisioncolors.com. It does go into a support tool. I'm in the process of changing that because the current one we're using is
antique.
Rough.
Yeah, it's antique.
But it keeps if I don't get to your question fast enough, and then you reply to yours asking for a status update, it moves you to the back of the line.
Oh no.
So it exacerbates the issue. And if I only look every 2 or 3 days, then it's
that
terrible.
website was created in the early days of the internet, like early 2000s. So that's why.
Actually, this next week it's on my to-do list to move to a new one. So that will go away. But
I stocked up before sale, and Matt is correct. My Epson R1900 ink from Epson is no longer available. But I mean, you could buy it's the same ink set, right? For the 2000. Do you have the 2000, Matt?
I believe so.
It's the same ink set. In fact, if you buy ink for the P400, it's still the same ink set.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, Judy Ann, that's my daughter's name, by the way. So, and she is here with us from Washington State. Seems to be having problems signing in with chat. Really? Well, you're in now, so I hope everything's okay. Okay, that worked. Canon Pro 200, Nikon Fujifilm money magnets. I love it. Mark Swanson, I think that's a new person. Hello from Orting, Washington. Douglas Bradshaw from Canada. Canon Pro 200S, 2600. Oh, okay. Yeah. Canon Pro 1000 and so on and so on and so on. Okay. So printhead PF, what is the deal with the PF10 printhead resetters? Resetter, and will you be offering for the Pro 2600, 6600? Printer resetter? I don't know what you mean, Douglas. You might mean there is no resetter for those printers anyway. But I don't know what you mean by printhead resetter. And yeah, we discussed this earlier about the new inkset from Canon. And I think Matt's going to wait until some lab comes up with a similar formulation.
Well, we do want to engineer formulations like Mike did at some point. So we'll see what that is. The labs do have, they claim to have, though we have not reviewed or tested anything for the 310, 1100. Anything beyond that, some of them use, it's just a size difference. So it's the same inks, different size printer. Right. So we'll look and update compatibility as we go. But Douglas, if you want me to look into it specifically, I do recommend you submit a question, because that gets it into submit a ticket, and that gets it into our frame of reference so that I have it on a list to go review at some point. So
now, I have discussed this several times. If you got an 1100, the cartridges are identical, only the keyways are different. So you disable your chip, and then you want to stick with OEM. You don't want to buy Matt's inks that he may have available in the future. Look on eBay for cartridges that are larger volume for those printer families that are using the same formulation that the 1100 is, the 2600, 4600, and so forth. And then extract the ink and then load directly into there. It's really neat, Matt. I don't know if you've ever tried it. You could drill a hole, of course, and put a plug.
Yep.
Pressurizing the ink in. Have you done that?
Yep. Oh, yeah.
You pressurize, depressurize, and you put 80 ml in there without ever having to tamper with the cartridge. And that might be the way they fill them at the factory. I don't know.
And I'll note that our low ink warning system is already compatible with the 1100. There's no differences functionality because it's the same cartridge, so that does work with.
I did, the sensor system.
Yeah,
so
no problem.
I did because I don't have an 1100. I decided to do kind of a backwards testing thing where I downloaded. I began to install the driver, and then I stopped. And when you install a driver, you create a temporary folder. I went into that folder and removed all of the ICC profiles, and I loaded them into my computer. And so I made back-to-back matching results on this paper with the Pro 1000 profile, OEM, and on this paper with the Pro 1100 profile. There was a slight difference, and actually it was an improvement. So I thought, well, wait a minute. I can just use the 1100 profile when I'm printing on Canon papers. And I get the same enhanced black, deeper DMAX, better reds, supposedly rendition, simply by using the profile for the 1100 without having to actually use 1100 inks. But again, you can just go ahead and buy larger cartridges. I found them for like $150 each instead of $300 for the 700 ml ones. And so I was searching to see people who have an 1100, they want to refill, but they don't want to use third party. You can get away less per ml. The larger the volume, the less per ml the cost will be. And you can go ahead and enjoy, your 1100 at a slightly cheaper operating cost. All right, let's see. HZ, whoops, I'm late. I was framing a print and lost track of time. Greetings from the Netherlands. EcoTank 8550. How about that? Photo Nikon 780. Looking forward to the new Canadian solution. We'll then switch to using more PCSE inks. Example, Pro 1000. Yeah. Okay, so there's Jerry.
Yep. That's what I was responding to. Submit a support ticket with your info, and I'll eventually respond back to that. So this is an interesting one. We have not changed anything on the current website. Like, I've added content to, like to update the status of things on the homepage. But other than that, we haven't changed the host, haven't changed anything. This is likely the service providers and browsers just getting more smart about security is my guess.
Jerry, you're running a VPN? Is that what it is? Is that what I read?
That's how I'm interpreting it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And even right now, the cart, if you're checking out, we have customers that reach out saying, hey, the cart's throwing a security error, an SSL error, before you get to checkout. And it does that correctly because the 2 pages prior are not secure. But when you get to the actual checkout page where your credit card information is transmitted, and then PayPal, Google, Apple Pay, whatever you use, those are of course secure. But the critical pages are secure. When the website hands it off to the cart software, it is not secure. So those issues, and I assume the VPN issue will go away when we transition to the new website. We are starting that process in the next couple of weeks, not the transition, but the build out. So, keep an eye out for that in Q4 is kind of our hoped timeline on that.
Okay, I'm going to hold on to this one because that's one of my questions that I prepared beforehand. So don't go anywhere. All right. So this I discussed with Mike last night, and he thought that might be a good idea. So, Matt, I live in Chicago. I don't want to buy through the mail or through the internet. Can I go to your place of business and just place an order right there, and I can pay the local taxes and walk away with my goods, go home, and immediately start printing?
I would not recommend just showing up and making a purchase for 2 reasons. One, we are.
Oh no, I will call you before that.
Okay. If you make an appointment, we can probably work it out, but we don't have, we're not an open retail space.
You don't have a storefront.
Yeah, it's not a storefront.
You don't have a counter. Even if it's just a rented warehouse, you would need a little bit of a counter, So you're there behind the counter, and I'm in front of the counter and say, hey, I was recommended to come here So I had people from Chicago just hound me about that, asking if they can just buy directly from you.
Yeah, we're open to it. We're open to it. Yeah, there's the problem. The current software doesn't allow for us to do a local pickup option very easily. And so, again, once we get to Shopify, a lot of functionality will become available.
Yeah. You might be shocked how many people would probably choose. I mean, I would drive an hour and no issue. Yeah. It's better than, shipping. Right.
I mean, in Chicago, that's like 10 miles.
Yeah. So if I do order, say I live in Illinois, if I do place an order, I'm going to have to pay sales tax because that's within the state. Right. So, okay. So no difference. If I drive there, I'll still pay.
Yeah.
Is there local tax in Chicago added on?
So we're north of Chicago by about, in no traffic, about 25, 35 minutes, depending on what you define as Chicago. Okay. And then
you're closer to the Wisconsin border. I mean, is that
we're kind of right in between, like heart of Chicago and Wisconsin. We are, what's it called? So we are in Cook County, which is the same county as Chicago. And so we do pay Cook County taxes, and there are some local ones as well. We're not passing those through. Obviously, we're taking that out of the current income and just dealing with that. Again, because of technology limitations. Eventually, like Shopify helps with a lot of that. So,
okay, let me see one more here. That's what we saw that. We're going to discuss that a little bit later. So yeah, I know. I get you, Jerry. I understand why you do that, but some sites they'll have an issue with that, right? So when will the website be updated to a more modern format? I got asked that.
It can't come soon enough. I mean, the current technology stack slows us down, and I'm a technologist. I mean, again, this is what I reached out to Mike about, back in October of last year. So, so it can't come soon enough. It's just a process right now.
What was the name for the person in charge of a webmaster?
A webmaster, yeah.
Do you need a webmaster to be able to do this or not? I mean, some of these websites are pretty easy to set up to a more modern standard.
They're pretty easy depending on how you want to go about it. There's Mike's business, or our business now, has some complexities in it, and just the kitting versus the individual inks. How do you display those to users in a way that is easy to navigate, efficient, makes sense? But yeah, overall, it's not particularly hard. Someone at a company needs to own that responsibility. You can, of course, hire it out. I'm currently working on redoing our SOC website, so it's in my wheelhouse. But it's
you
also,
you just said out like a Canadian.
I mean, there's no I'm not Canadian.
You're not.
But,
you said out. You said out. Out. I love it. We watch a lot of Canadian shows on TV.
nice.
Just love it. Okay, so if after reading the provided refilling instructions, this is me, I'm a beginner, raw beginner, and I buy one of those kits from you, and I have issues, who can I contact?
So first thing I say is reach out to us at support@precisioncolors.com. And I respond 1 to 3 days is typically how often I check, depending on how much ink I have to manufacture that week. If I don't know, I typically will reach out to Mike or a supplier with a question. And then if I really don't know, if it gets into the more technical printer behavior, I send people your way, Jose, to the Facebook group. So that's...
You guys call me.
Yeah.
Don't call me. No. Email me. You got my email. Yeah. So I noticed that whenever Mike would get a new batch of inks, same formulation, just new. And I know the real companies do that as well, EPSON and Canon. You test and you compare. Yep. So you have to have printed a standard image, or if you really want to get super crazy, color patches, which are then scanned. I don't know if you can read right here with a spectrophotometer, and you compare values for each one of those color patches between the last batch and the new batch. So like in my lab, when I was doing a protein analysis of somebody's bodily fluids, I used a spectrophotometer, and I got my control, which is exactly a certain wavelength, and my negative control, which is 0, and then the sample. And I would have to make sure that the system is working by giving me the correct lateral positive and negative numbers. Then I know that I can trust. So you run just before you are done with that batch, you print test patches or just a standard image, and then load cartridges with the new batch, compare, do an immediate standard image print, of course, proper settings, and you compare them under a viewing light, and they're identical. Good. That batch matches my previous batch, so that customers will not get pissed off at me for sending my batch. That's a little bit different. My prints are not coming out the way they used to, Matt. You see what I mean? So,
well, this
is the real world. What happens out there?
In the first 2 weeks, we actually did have an issue where it was very lucky to have it contained. I wasn't using the automated setup where we make a lot of inks. I was making a lot of things in really small batches, kind of made to order almost, which is not efficient, but it's what I was doing the first couple of weeks to really get ahead. But one of the inks, the formulations had been transcribed incorrectly. And so we sent out 2 bottles of the wrong ink, and the customers reached out like, what happened? And
yeah, if it's something that you can actually visibly detect with just your God-given eyes, it's a pretty big error. Usually something indiscernible. Only an instrument can measure it.
Two of the inks had been switched. Like I think like a gray and a black had been switched or something like that. And so I mean, and if that happens, we own that. I mean, we're very customer focused. I mean, it's part of the premise of our acquisition of the business. And we liked Mike's relationship with the customers, and we want to continue taking care of the customers. So that is fundamental. I mean, anyone that's reached out with an issue, hey, this is forgotten. This is, I got the wrong thing. It's like, no problem. We'll get an order in the mail.
This is why anyone that owns a Pro-1000 or hires that have this internal feature, the densitometer, the printers have an internal densitometer that allows you to, if you think something is drifting, just like your monitor's calibration, yeah, do it every 3 months, please. Don't wait until it has drifted one way or the other. But one thing that the Canon printers allow you to do is that even if a batch of paper, for whatever the reason, is outputting slightly different, you can counteract that by recalibrating your printer. It just brings it to factory standards again. And so, you print with that ink, that new batch that came out of the Canon ink factory, wherever that's located, and then you recalibrate your printer. So if there was a slight change in formulation for whatever the reason, it will counteract that. And no other printer does that. That's amazing to me that other printers don't allow you. They must be very they must think that everything they produce is exactly the same, batch after batch after batch. And that's not really true. There are slight changes, you just don't see it. But if you're really a stickler, recalibrate your Pro 1000 every 3 months and you'll be fine. I mean, especially pigment inks, that third-party inks don't have that absolute neutral buoyancy for their particles of pigment. They can settle. Even OEM inks can settle down. And the Canon Pro 1000 has an agitation system. It reagitates the inks internally. Who thought that up? Come on. There must have been a reason to include that mechanical feature, because it is.
Yep.
There must have been a reason for that. And so I'm very grateful about, people might hate the Pro 1000. It does this, it wastes ink, it does that. It's always doing this before I print. Well, live with it, because it's really actually helping you continue producing beautiful, beautiful, beautiful prints constantly and constantly. All right, let's continue on. So we have, are you going to continue to make ICC profiles for your inks?
The short answer,
only if necessary.
Yeah, I mean, the short answer is we want to. As we talked about earlier, it's an involved process, right? And you have to do it for every paper, every ink set, etc. And transparently, I don't have that expertise currently. Can I learn? Sure. I've learned much more complicated processes before, but it's a time question at this point. Mike and I have talked briefly about partnering on that before. I'm definitely still open to that. Mike has the treasure trove of printers and paper, so that's
there's a legal issue about that. I don't know if you're aware of it, but like I have a X-Rite i1 Pro 2. There's an i1 Pro 3 as well, a little bit more, much more expensive, and the software that you use to create the profile, in other words, it controls the scanner.
Yep.
You can't, I don't even know you can give away profiles made with the OEM software. You have to use an open source system, which is the Argyle, whatever the hell it is. It's kind of a DOS type process, black screen with lots of, like programming.
Yeah.
And it's a lot more difficult to use. Mike knows how to do it with his eyes closed. But that's what he had to use in order to be able to legally make profiles available for people. I used to sell profiles and I realized, whoa, I better stop, because I'm doing something illegal. I'm selling profiles with a software that is got, what's the word? Anyway, you know what I mean. You cannot use that. And it's internally tagged. Somehow they're able to see whether that profile you gave to someone or sold to someone was made with their software or not.
It's and they do have commercial licenses for it that you can purchase. So, there are labs that do it, but then it increases the cost. I don't know if there are ROIs there for us at that point. Like right now, Mike always gave them away for free, right? So you can view that as a loss leader, because you have people come to you, and that is interesting, but it's a lot of work. And so
Not only that,
Techie.
earlier he was going, and I'm going like, Mike, are you absolutely nuts? Because he was creating profiles for different viewing
Light.
D levels.
Yes.
So D50 was the normal,
Yep.
and then he was doing something for fluorescent lights, for this type of fluorescent light. For wow. So are you telling me that if I know that my print is going to be displayed under certain type of light, then I could? So he was doing all of those profiles by himself and providing like for gallery use. So he would contact a gallery, what color temperature viewing lights are you using? And he would make a profile strictly for that type of viewing condition. You took that print home and it would not look correct in your own viewing conditions, only their viewing conditions. He doesn't do that anymore. He stopped doing that. So I'm glad he listened to me. It was
so much work.
It's over the top, too much work.
Yeah.
All right. So Jolly Snyder is here, Huntsville, Alabama. And see the printer? EcoTank 8550, another Epson's. Jerry says, while there's still time today, best regards to Mike Lee if watching. Mike, oh, I have to tell you guys. So yeah, he's hurting right now. So I was gonna have him pop in. I sent them the link. I said that in the beginning, and we would have had 3 of us here chit-chatting, which would have been awesome. We need to really do this and plan it a little bit better once he recovers from that fall. And I think it'll be pretty cool to have all 3 of us here at one time.
That'd be fun.
All right. Will the sensor system for the Pro 1000 and the 1100 still be available? Go ahead.
Yes, my solder station is right here. I hand solder those currently, and we're currently in the process of redesigning the board so we can automate that. So it's not a great use of my time at the moment. We're not going to make any significant changes. It'll function the same way, but just so that we can have an automated manufacturing process to make those is our end goal. So just kick that off this past week, actually, as my the existing boards run low, but we do plan to continue offering that for sure.
Now, you had mentioned to me that you were going to be using possibly a different type of LED light indicators.
I haven't made the final decision. That's something the engineer I'm working with and I are talking through. It's again, my background. So I didn't get too specific earlier, but I designed software, not as a designer, but I was the product manager for an IoT SaaS software platform for 10 plus years. And so user experience is something I think about a lot. And light green means go, red means stop, stuff like that. Those patterns exist, they're common. And so I think depending on the cost, I don't want to add too much cost to the board. It's so simple and it's not, it works right now. So
I was thinking an improvement would be maybe some thinner cabling, not so bulky, because what people will always have problems with is routing.
Yeah,
those cables. The way that it is set up now is you have 2 basic control boards.
Yep.
And then 1 power supply goes through 1 board, and then it goes over to the second board. Yep. And then you have 6 LED lights in the V20 2.0. There are 2 rows of LEDs. One of them is white and one of them is green.
Correct.
Now the sensors attached to the front of the cartridge and basically will read that you have sufficient amount of ink. They're pre-calibrated. I did my calibration on my own as well to tweak it a little bit. And whenever I get the white light, the green light will go off.
Yep.
Whenever I get the white light, and I'm looking, I'm going, oh, I got a white light. I better go back there. And I take that cartridge out. I always add 60 ml and it comes back up to full weight, which is 112 grams. Those sensors are accurate as hell.
They're really good. So we do calibrate them to about 20% of the cartridge, and the cable, we buy this as a component, a made component, so we don't get to
Mhm.
control the thickness of this wire. We can control the wire from board A to board B.
Right.
And I am going to change that to be a connector rather than just bare wire
Yeah, there's
plugging in.
two screw. Yeah.
Yeah, the screw terminals, just to make it simpler for us on our end more than
Right.
anything. But yeah, that's one change we'll be making. Otherwise, we're going to keep it pretty much the same. And again, functionality won't change. Is it low? Yes or no? That's it. I'm not
Right.
trying to make an IoT device here. So
Now the other option, and we talked about this last night. I brought it up to Mike, and he says, "Well, let me tell you a little secret." So he told me yeah, and I'm not going to talk about that, but basically, this requires very little work. You either drill a hole 5/32 of an inch, if it's a plug that Rick Johnson sells, or any Canon refilling plug. So get them from Rick, please. Help my friend out. So you plug it in. You weigh it. If it's 112 grams, your cartridge is full. You don't have to do anything. If it's less than that, you do the math. So 32 grams would be bone dry. You don't want to be bone dry. So I always, and I'm getting tired of it because it's always the same measurement. When I get the white light, I take it out, and I just for ease of operation, I just pop the sensor off. It's double sticky tape, and you can replace that with 3M tape anytime you want to. Okay, I pop this on top of my scale. Guess how much it weighs? Every single time, 55 grams. And I just subtract that from 112, and I add that amount of ink. Now, because Mike was originally, before we came up with the disabling of the chip, because we hadn't tried it yet, he said, I'm going to sell you, when you buy my inks for the Pro 1000, not 120 ml bottle, because you only need 80.
Yep.
So if you're going to replace the chip every time you use it, you can allow that cartridge to be declared empty, because internally there's still that compartment still has ink in it. No danger. The chip will be declared empty. Take out the cartridge and take my bottle of 82 ml, empty it in your cartridge, put a new chip in, pop it back in your printer. But now with the sensor system, you really only need like 60 ml to refill your cartridge. If you buy the 82 ml bottle, which is what he was marketing at the time, you end up with like 20 ml of ink that is kind of useless for refilling, because you're going to wait until the next time the light goes white, and you really need 60 ml. So you might want to consider, for those who are, this will be more inventory for you, 2 different loads. But the chips are not available hardly anymore, so you got to come up. I think I recommend, Matt, that you come up with a different load, capacity bottle for those who are using the sensor. That way they can just use the whole bottle. The light goes green, empty the whole bottle into that hole.
Yeah,
You're done.
It is
Rather than have 20 ml left over.
We're already set up for the 82 milliliter. So
yeah, right.
It's not crazy. Yes, it is more SKUs and more internal stuff, but
right,
it's not out of the realm of question.
Because that, I mean, he recognized that as well when he came up with after like 3 iterations of the sensor system. I kept trying them. We kept messing around with it, and finally he got it all done. And he says, I'm going to send you a video, Joe, and you tell me if you like it. And I did. And so he sent me the set, and I put it on. And then I did my videos, and I did a calibration video. I even did a video where I took a bottle, and I held the sensor by hand right here until it sensed density, and people saw the light come on, and so they understood exactly what this was all about, and it became relatively popular.
Yeah.
But yeah, he realized that there was going to be an issue with, you only need 60 to refill. What do I do? Do I continue printing until, oh my God, I think I'm empty? No, you don't want to do that. light comes on, that day you top it off, and you only need 60. Then you got 20 left.
Yeah.
What do you do with that? You know, you really need another batch of 60.
No, it's great feedback. So
yeah. So anyway, just a thought.
Yep.
Okay, so Harold Davies, this is the guy I told you about. He's my good friend from Wisconsin. Matt, I have version 2 sensor system with the Pro 1100, and the LEDs are so bright. I moved it to another room. That's because it has to hit you in the face, literally, so you don't continue printing without paying attention.
It's super
That's
bright.
the way I look at it.
Yeah.
I know what you're talking about, Harold, and yeah, they are bright. I cannot miss it. My room is really dark right now, but if that light was on, boom, I can see it, and I would not want it next to me in bed.
We'll definitely. It's something we're reviewing. I gotta see. We gotta play with some resistor values to figure out what the right brightness is. But Jose's right. It has to catch your attention, and that's the ramification. So it's like a cost benefit there, not from dollars and cents, but just you don't want to miss it. So we have other ideas too that we're.
I mean, you can get. You have 20 ml left about.
Right. You've got a buffer.
You don't have to top it off right this minute. You can wait till tomorrow. What I do is I take the sensor off. After so many times of doing that, I need to replace the tape. Okay, I got rolls of it right here that I use, and but I weigh it and then I subtract from 112, and I add that much of that volume, or just do it by eye with a bottle with a needle on it, and I'm getting close. Okay, 100, 105, 100, 110. That's close enough. You don't have to go full. You can go to 90 if you want to, or 100. It's always going to be triggered when you're down at 20%. So it doesn't really need to be full to the point where it's almost overflowing. No, you don't need to do that. The sensor will always be triggered at 20% from empty. So, and if you want to change that, you just pop the cover off the sensor. There's a little screw that you turn clockwise or counterclockwise to increase the sensitivity or reduce the sensitivity to the sensor itself. So, yeah. But and I don't know whether he discussed this with you, but Mike was coming up with he discovered somewhere some very flat sensors. Let me get a cartridge. Hang on. So here's a 700 ml cartridge for the 2100 and the 2000. Not the new one, not the new ink. So this fits vertically into a slot. There's enough room between. You see how this is actually in. So these sensors are only like that thick, and he attaches them down here. And you pop it in, and you have the cabling come up, and no issues. Yeah. And so around 100 ml left of ink, it turns on. So he was coming up with something for this type of family of printers. He never did it. But I don't think there's enough marketing for this, for something this large. I know my friend has a printer this big.
It's interesting because wide format, those are using the wide formats mostly. Like they use a ton of ink. So there's like Mike was very encouraging to further explore the wide format printer line and expand there. So it's definitely something we have our eyes on. In terms of that, the supplier who does make these for us, they do have a thinner option that I looked at even for the current system, but I don't want to make too many changes too quickly is kind of where I landed at.
One thing that when he began to sell, are you still selling OEM ink options for the Pro 1000?
Yep, we offer OEM and Precisioncolors.
So how many of these empty cartridges do you have?
A storage unit full.
Yeah. So
yes,
like Harold, you could use, Harold has a 2100. You drill a hole here, 530 seconds, and one here. This is all hollow. There is a venting. Notice this has 2 holes on the port. There is a venting tube inside with little holes all the way around that tube. It's like a little pipe. And that allows air because the spigot is double. So one delivers ink and one vents the internal part of the cartridge, as you well know. And so this is all open. So you drill a hole there, drill a hole here. That chip, he never tampered with it. It's still a brand new chip. You can create a refillable system for your 2100. Of course, you got to be able to trust the third-party ink source to you go that route. So I was thinking if I ever get like a 2100, I would not want the new one, just a 2100 with the roll adapter. That's 24-inch. That's all I would ever need. I would create a set of refillable cartridges, disable the chip eventually. Yeah. How long would that take? I don't know. Long time. And then buy inks from a source and then refill my cartridges with that ink. You would need a little funnel or some delivery system to be able to load, whatever. It depends, if you disable the chips, then you got to like remove them every 2 months, 3 months, depending how much you print, and weigh them. You better know how much the empty ones weigh and how much a full one weighs. That way you can have a good idea how much ink is actually internally in those tanks. But yeah, that will give you the ability to refill those big cartridges. You can buy refillable cartridges for them already, but why not use the OEM? They probably fit better as far as the exit and venting nozzles go. They're probably better quality than anything refillable available from China. Anyway, I think that's it, man. We covered everything. Everything that I had sent to you earlier. Not that I wanted you to practice. I think you did it from the bottom of your heart, like I expected. And I hope everyone here was able to see the real Matt McNamara. And I call you Eminem. And again, like he said, like he suggested, just go into the site. It's going to be updated by the end of the year. Correct? Yes.
That's the goal.
So, yeah. And it'll make it a little bit more accessible. If you got any questions that are technical, you're doing something wrong, settings, you contact me. Don't bother Matt. Matt is selling inks, the best inks in the business, by the way. So just feel free to join the Facebook group. Right there, you can ask anything you want. There are a lot more smarter people than me in that group, by the way. And so they can possibly help you. Again, don't bother the business with, I need my handheld to be able to refill. No, you should have. Okay, I'm getting nasty here. You should have done the homework before you got into this. I went through every mistake in the book, and I'm here to help you prevent those mistakes from occurring. So that is my true reason for doing this. I hope you guys kind of understand that from me. I'm not here to make money. This is. I'm retired. I'm fine. I have. Don't worry about me. This is just my love for the hobby, for the craft. And when I find somebody who I really enjoy working with and love what they are producing and providing, that's it. I'm there. So to contact me, order from him. Contact me if you have any issues, any questions whatsoever. I think I pretty much know everything he's selling at this point. So
for sure.
That's what I'm here for. All right, man. So thank you so much.
Two things. One,
yeah,
we are at some point, customers will see an email sign up on our website. We have such again, the customer list is amazing. We have no way to communicate with them, and we have no way to showcase the work that they're doing. And like, it's such a vibrant visual thing that we eventually want to work in that customer, what the customers are doing. They're doing some really cool stuff and promote them. And so the way we'll handle that communication is via that email. So we're not going to, at some point we do plan on running promotions, discounts, whatever, but it won't be a spammy, like we're not going to email you 4 times a week. So, maybe once a month type of thing, maybe. But at some point I'd really encourage people to sign up for that.
Yeah, that would be good. That would be awesome.
And then my last thing, just Jose, thank you so much for your support. The amount of customers who reference you is
I noticed, and somebody brought this up to my attention, that there's a couple of video links that are no longer accessible because of the hack. And so what I will do once I'm trying to do this systematically, chronologically. So people are enjoying these videos from 2019 and
some good ones
here, because a lot of it is still pretty relevant. One thing that I always stress, the process of photo printing with inkjet printers is identical to what it was 10 years ago. So there's, unless you're describing something specifically of a new model today, no, what you did 10 years ago is still the same process, the same way that you perform it today. So I am going to be continuing to upload. When I find something that might be very specific to one of your products, I will send you the link. If you want to embed that link, people can then, I'm looking at this ink set. Oh, Jose did a video on that, and here's the link. And so so the links that are there now are just not.
They're all dead now.
They don't take you anywhere. So, all right. Excellent.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
All right. Bye-bye, everybody. We will be playing a goodbye video. And if you enjoyed today, please leave your little comments at the bottom, and I will go ahead and post it. Let me go ahead and get this ready. This will be the one that I did a long time ago about my island. Let me get this right. Wait a minute. You know what happened, Matt? This application that we use here, they started charging a fortune for features that used to be free. And so I can no longer do certain things. Here we go. And enjoy. Happy printing, everybody. Bye-bye. Wait a minute. Oh, I need to share my screen. Oh, and it does that all the time, by the way. So let's share my screen one more time. I'll leave you with the video. And you guys have a wonderful weekend, everybody. Bye-bye.